Winter on the Eastern Front was unforgiving. Cold that bit through the coat, silence that felt like a trap. Deep inside a German outpost, one soldier had built something the officers called unauthorized equipment, a modified carbine he welded together from spare parts, battlefield scraps, and pure stubbornness. It fired cleaner. It aimed steadier. It never jammed in the cold. But the regulation was simple. Only issued weapons. Nothing homemade. The officer slammed his notebook shut and ordered him to surrender the carbine immediately. The soldier didn't argue, yet he didn't hand it over either. He simply said, "Out here, sir. A man either trusts his weapon, or he doesn't come back." The officer frowned, but the soldier already knew. The forest outside was crawling with enemy marksmen. He felt it days before anyone else did. That night, he hid the banned carbine under the floorboards of the supply hut, and waited. He knew the test was coming. The forest was too quiet. Even on the Eastern Front, even in winter, the world always made some kind of sound. Branches cracking under ice, distant artillery, the wind dragging snow across the ground. But that morning, nothing. He stepped out of the supply hut, breath drifting like smoke in the frozen air. The sky was pale, almost silver, and every instinct in him tightened at once. Something was watching. He took 3 careful steps toward the tree line, and the first shot sliced past his cheek like a hot needle. He didn't dive, didn't shout, didn't freeze. He simply lowered himself into the snow, eyes narrowed, scanning. The others behind him shouted and scattered for cover. Officers barked orders, boots thudded against the frozen ground. But he heard only one sound, a bolt sliding back, far out, beyond the pines. A sniper, trained, patient, confident. He crawled underneath the hut, hands shaking not from fear but from cold, and pulled out the banned carbine he'd hidden hours earlier. The metal felt warm compared to the winter wind. It felt right. Another round snapped into the wooden wall beside him, splintering it. He closed his eyes and listened. Really listened. Snowflakes landing, branches moving, breath carried by the wind. Then, a shift, a small one. But enough. He exhaled slowly, raised the carbine and fired a single shot. A distant thud answered him. Enemy sniper number 1 was done, but he already knew. This was only the beginning. The forest did not rest after the first shot. It only grew colder, quieter, angrier. Within an hour, the second sniper revealed himself. A clean crack echoing through the frozen pines, a round burying itself into a crate just inches from a soldier's head. Panic spread through the camp. Men dove behind logs, equipment, anything that could shield them. Officers shouted orders nobody could follow, but he didn't hide. He pressed his ear against the snowy ground, listening. The cold bit his face, numbing it, but he stayed still. 1 shot had a direction. 2 shots had a pattern. By noon, he had mapped their movement. 3, maybe 4 shooters shifting positions, circling, tightening the noose. The banned carbine clung to him like it was part of his body. He moved through the snow in complete silence, sinking into drifts, crawling under branches heavy with frost. His gloves froze, his breath stung his lungs, but he did not stop. Every time a sniper fired, he answered with 1 single, perfect shot. By the end of the first day, 4 rifles in the tree line had gone silent. Night fell. Snowstorm hit. Visibility dropped to nothing. The world turned black and white, just shapes in the dark. But the snipers didn't stop, and neither did he. He tracked them by sound alone. Bolts sliding, coats brushing against bark, a footstep sinking too deep into fresh snow. One by one, he hunted them. Closer each time. More precise each time. On the second day, just past dawn, the last shot echoed across the forest. His shot. When the wind settled, when the snow finally stopped falling, 10 motionless shapes lay scattered among the pines. 10 elite marksmen. 2 days. 1 soldier. one illegal carbine. He wiped the frost from the weapon's barrel, exhaled, and for the first time in 48 hours, stood still. He didn't feel victory. He felt something else. The winter had tested him, and he survived it. When he stepped back into the camp, the snow had already covered his tracks. His coat was torn, his gloves stiff with frost, and the barrel of the carbine still steamed faintly in the freezing air. The men stared at him like they were seeing a ghost walk among the living. Some looked relieved, some frightened, some simply confused at how one soldier could return after facing what had taken 10 others. But the commander pushed through the crowd, face tense, boots cracking through the ice with every step. He stopped in front of him, eyes scanning the snow on his uniform, then settling on the weapon in his hands, the same illegal carbine he had ordered surrendered 2 days earlier. A long, heavy silence followed. The commander narrowed his eyes. "Is that the weapon I told you to turn in?" He didn't answer immediately. He just nodded once. Another silence, even colder than the wind. For a moment the men expected punishment, yelling, arrest, stripping of rank. But the commander wasn't a fool. He had heard every shot over the last 2 days, he had counted them, and he knew exactly what those shots meant. The officer finally spoke, voice low but carrying across the entire camp. "Keep it." A murmur spread through the soldiers, but the commander wasn't finished. He stepped closer, lowering his voice, but every man still heard it. "From this moment on, no one touches that rifle but you." The soldier didn't react with pride, anger, or satisfaction. He simply wiped the snow from the carbine, the weapon that had saved the camp, and began cleaning it again with slow, practiced motions. The commander turned and walked away without another word. For the first time, the camp felt safe, not because of the high walls, not because of the officers, but because of one man, and a weapon the rules tried to erase. The forest eventually forgot the gunfire, but the men did not. Weeks passed, and winter only tightened its grip on the front. Snow rose higher, nights grew longer. Every sound carried farther through the frozen silence, and yet the camp felt different now. The men walked with a quiet confidence, glancing toward the tree line less often, knowing that the worst threat they had faced, 10 trained marksmen, never made it past the snow. News spread faster than the wind. It started in nearby outposts. One of ours took down 10 snipers in 2 days. Then, in supply convoys, he built the rifle himself. Soon, even officers passing through the camp paused when they saw him, the soldier with the illegal carbine that command had tried to ban. Some whispered that he moved through the trees without leaving tracks. Others swore he could hear a rifle bolt from a kilometer away. He ignored all of it. Every morning he inspected the weapon he had built with his own hands, tightening screws, checking welds, wiping frost from the barrel. Not for glory, not for pride, for survival. One cold morning, a young recruit approached him, nervous and stiff. "Is it true," the recruit asked quietly, "that you fought them alone?" He didn't look up from the rifle. "I wasn't alone," he said. "I had this." He tapped the carbine's frame, the same weapon that nearly got him punished, and the same weapon that saved them all. The recruit stared, speechless. The soldier finally met his eyes and added, "When you build something yourself, you trust it more than any regulation." The wind howled across the camp, carrying snow across their boots. Somewhere in the forest, a distant branch cracked, harmless, just winter shifting. But everyone in the camp knew. If danger came again, if the tree line awakened with gunfire, the first man to stand against it would be the one they once tried to disarm. The legend wasn't the number of snipers, it wasn't the illegal weapon. It was this: one soldier proved that skill, instinct, and willpower can outweigh any order written on paper. The war moved on. Front lines shifted. Camps packed, retreated, advanced, and collapsed under the weight of winter and steel. But one thing never changed: the tale of the soldier who turned a forbidden weapon into a lifeline. Months later, when the unit was ordered to relocate deeper into the forest, He stood alone for a moment at the edge of the camp. Snow creaked under his boots. The sky hung low and heavy, as if winter itself was watching him. He raised the carbine, his carbine, and inspected it one last time before moving out. The welds were scarred. The barrel darkened from hundreds of shots. The wood stock carried fingerprints that frost could never erase. It had survived everything with him. As the column marched forward, a young officer rode up beside him. "They still talk about you," the officer said. 10 snipers, 2 days, alone." He didn't respond. The snowstorm around them swallowed the words before they even landed. The officer continued. "Some say it was skill. Some say it was luck." He paused. "What do you say?" The soldier looked toward the forest. The same forest that once tried to bury him. The same forest where he proved himself. He answered quietly. "I say, winter never forgives the unprepared." The officer nodded but didn't fully understand. Few did. As the march continued, the wind howled across the treetops, sounding almost like distant gunfire. Maybe memory. Maybe warning. But he didn't look back. He only tightened his grip on the weapon he had built, the weapon that saved an entire camp, the weapon that command once tried to take from him. That weapon was no longer illegal. It was a reminder that in the deadliest cold, instinct beats orders, skill beats fear, and a man who trusts his own hands is stronger than winter itself. He walked on. Snow swallowed his footsteps. The forest stayed silent, but the legend moved with him. In the end, his story wasn't about 10 snipers, or a forbidden weapon, or even survival. It was about this. When everyone else froze, he moved. When others waited for orders, he trusted himself. Winter tested him harder than any enemy, and he outshot it. No medals, no fame, just a simple truth whispered through the years. A prepared man with a steady hand can change everything.